Starting with my bodice block with my upper bust and bust line drawn, I'm going to cut through the darts so I can shift them. For this gown, I want to shape the bust line in a way that my cleavage won't show. So I'm making the bust line elevate like a half a moon, if that makes sense, like a half a round, like nice round shape going on. Moving on from waist down, I drew a waist dart the same size as the waist dart for the bodice, and I made sure that the width of the hip is 1/4 of my measurement, obviously, like the total measurement of my hips. I'm going to round the line to connect it from the hip to right above my knee because, of course, this gown is going to be fitted. Then I'm going to start the mermaid flare where the party's at. Moving on to the back, with my back block pattern, I'm going to trace a strapless line. And just like I did with the front waist down pattern, I'm going to trace my hip line to where my knee will start, and then I'm going to trace a mermaid flare. For the back of my dress, I'm going to attach a train starting from where my knee would start. So I'm going to add a slit where the train would be attached, as I'm showing you. After cutting the pattern pieces, I'm going to cut the fabric, leaving about a centimeter of error, also known as the allowance. At this point, I am going to overstitch, or you can say overlocking, the fabric pieces using a zigzag stitch to protect the edges, of course. This is going to be my hard work, so I don't want anything unraveling, especially the lace. So I'm going to do that now because it's very tedious. Like, I hate this process, so I usually like to get them out of the way. Now that I'm done with that process, I'm going to put the pieces together to create the dress. This is my favorite part. I usually have Netflix going on in the background. I'm listening to a podcast while I put the dresses together. That's my favorite part. For the front and the back bodies, I'm going to attach boning. So I'm going to sew the base fabric separately from the lace fabric because I like to have the lace fabric over the base fabric, and I really don't want the stitch line from boning to show through the lace, if that makes sense. So I'm going to do them separately. Starting with the lace bodice, I'm going to sew the two bust pieces onto the middle piece like this. And just to show you how the princess seam is looking like, this is what the top piece looks like on a mannequin. You can see the half moon shape. That's slight. It's not dramatic, but it's enough to cover the cleavage area. For the base fabric, of course, I'm going to use a bedsheet set. I found this warm beige-ish bedsheet set on Amazon for $30. So of course I'll be using that today. It's thin and breathable, so it's great for layering without adding bulk. Remember, this is going to be a bodycon gown, so I want everything to be fitted. Here, I'm putting the lace pieces for the back part of my bodice. I'm going to cut the pieces using my pattern pieces, just like I did with the lace fabric. I'm going to then leave a centimeter of allowance once again. Next, for the bodice pieces only, I'm going to use an iron activated interlining. The thickness is 45 grams per meter. It's quite heavy duty, but I prefer this because it has great stiffness to it. After ironing, I'm going to cut the pieces out nice and clean. And as you can see, the base fabric now has some thickness and structure to it. And it's also not going to be see-through because there's going to be cameras and flashes, honey. Like, I don't want... On the interlining side, I'm going to trace my pattern for clarity. This is going to be useful when I'm sewing. And then I'm going to interlock the edges of the pieces like I did before, so I can get on with sewing them together. Do you see the curvature of the front bodice? Period. Like young people say, period. Now, to make the front bodice even more structured, I'm going to add some boning to the seams using this 1 centimeter wide stiff boning and also this open boning channel. And of course, folding the channel over to seal the edges of the boning because, girl, if that thing pokes me while I'm dancing on the dance floor, honey, Anyway, after adding the boning to the bust seams, do you see how structured the front bodice is? I'm now sewing the pieces together for the back bodice. And again, adding boning between the seams, and then overlay the lace piece and stitch the edges together. Moving on, I'm going to cut into both back bodice pieces 2 inches in because I'm about to add some lace channels. This is for the back lace so I can cinch in my waist, honey. For channels, I cut out a long strip of fabric, like the leftover fabrics, about 1 inch wide, I would say. Folded the edges in and sewed them together, as you can see, to create a long strip of lace. Then I cut them into 2-inch pieces. Fold these pieces into halves, lay them against the back bodice to sew. I now sew the 2 back bodice pieces to the front bodice. Leaving the back, also known as the zipper part, open. I then folded the rough edges around the top part of the bodice in and sewed them for a cleaner finish. Here I'm sewing together the lace and the base fabric of the bottom pieces, also known as the skirts. That's the mermaid part, and I'm attaching the bottom to the bodice. Now moving on to the zipper parts, I'm going to take 1 inch in around the waist. I'm making a mark there, and then I'm going to draw a following curve going into my bottom spine. This step is going to help me not have any type of bulk or bulging at the back, which is great, especially for a bodycon dress. Now I'm sewing the zipper here. To be honest with you, I don't know how to use the zipper foot yet, so I just normally sew my zipper like this, but I know I can use a foot, but I just don't. So basically this zipper is supposed to be an invisible zipper, but obviously it's not so invisible. But trust and believe, I'm trying to sew it as close as I can. And now I'm sewing the edges of the mermaid pieces, including the back train, which I forgot to record, by the way. I was so busy. I'm sorry. Moving on. And don't worry, I'm almost done. I'm going to attach horse braid hair. Is it horse braid hair or horseshoe? Horse braid, whatever it is, to the hem of the gown. This gives great flair and structure to the hem, especially if you have like a mermaid or any flare going on. And this is perfect because it's going to keep its shape. Moving on, I found these pretty appliques online. Or is it applique? Don't worry about it. So appliques or applique, whatever it is, online. So I decided to order a pair. This beautiful champagne. You see the gems? Beautiful. So I decided to stitch them around the hips for an extra embellishment. But in your case, you can place them anywhere though. But for me, I decided to put it around the curvature of the hip area. And here I'm trying the gown on. My hair is looking like a bald eagle, so I chopped my head off the footage, honey. And I also didn't put the lace in to tighten my back, but it's looking nice so far. Honestly, at this point, I'm going to sew my own wedding gown. 6 different dresses, traditional Ghanaian wedding gown, the white wedding gown. God willing, honestly, I want to go back to Ghana and learn proper sewing. You don't even know what you're saying. Trust me.